Hi, everybody. Dan Illman here along with Mike Beer, getting ready to take a peek at the 2022 Preakness Stakes. No Triple Crown this year. Rich Strike, the Kentucky Derby winner, bypassing the Preakness to point for the Belmont Stakes in another 3 weeks. Our coverage is presented by Spendthrift. We break from the gate. It's a tale of two starts, Mike. The number 5 early voting, the number 8 Epicenter. Epicenter wound up far, far back.
Yeah, I think farther back than many people thought he would be. He's got, or at least up until this race, then he had plenty of tactical speed. Didn't really show it here. I don't know. He didn't break, super sharp from the gate. And then he just couldn't get forward. You saw him lose position there the first time through this stretch, and it just left him with an awful lot to do. That was not the case for the winner.
I was talking to a lot of jockeys throughout the day, and they said it was very hard to make up ground on a sun-baked Pimlico main track that was very fast, and maybe that worked against Epicenter. But look at early voting, just cruising in a nice spot in second off of a hard-scent Armagnac.
It's a perfect trip for early voting, but a perfect trip for a horse who just looked like he was well within himself from the start of the race day. And you saw that, first run through the stretch there after they broke. Early voting got out of the gate well. He could have gone to the lead. Jose Ortiz did not want to do that. He was content to let Armagnac clear it, and he just sits a perfect trip. He looked like he could take Armagnac anytime he wanted, and he'll eventually do that as they come off the quarter pole.
You're going to see Epicenter saving ground in mid-pack. He's going to try to follow Creative Minister, who is up close to the pace. He will eventually get the run of the rails. He will run on nicely for second, but no match for early voting. You see Jose Ortiz. He's starting to brim with confidence, Mike. He's peeking around. He knows he has Armagnac. Here comes Secret Oath. She has that big turn of foot. She just isn't able to sustain it.
Yeah, she got, she wound up last early in this race, tried the wide run around the final turn here. A pretty game try from the filly. She could not get anywhere near early voting on the lead off the quarter pole. She'll get tired. The last eighth of a mile here, Dan. She's right alongside Creative Minister to that point. She'll start going up and down at that stage of the race and wind up settling for fourth. There's Epicenter, got through on the inside. Really, really game stretch run from this horse, Dan. Too much to overcome. He couldn't do it.
Early voting, a neck away from being perfect from 4 starts. Of course, his only loss came in the Wood Memorial, where he finished second to Mo Donegal. Chad Brown wisely skipped the Kentucky Derby, as he did with Cloud Computing a few years back, and it worked out in the Preakness for Cloud Computing. It worked out beautifully for early voting, and when you look at this pedigree, it is lovely. Gunrunner is just turning out to be a superstar as a stallion. This dam is a full sister to a millionaire named IRAP, who won the Bluegrass, and the dam is also a half sister to Speightstown. Now, Mike, early voting, they're not going to run him back in the Belmont. They're not going to run Epicenter back in the Belmont. They'll be pointed for summer campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to both get a little bit of time off here. A little surprising, I guess, at least in the case of early voting. The Preakness was only his 4th career start. But I guess they don't want to send him a mile and a half with no Triple Crown on the line. And so we'll see him over the summer, hopefully more than just a couple of times. Really talented horse, Dan. He's only run 4 times so far, but he's basically run well in every one of those races. And he took a pretty big step forward here. Perfect trip or not in this Preakness. 105 buyer speed figure. This horse is good.
Yes, he had to take a backward step on the buyer scale. He is a very good horse with excellent tactical speed that gives him a tremendous advantage over horses that don't have that speed. He gets the jump on them, it seems, each and every single time. Let's take a look at the running order for the 2022 Preakness Stakes. Early voting is the Coast's second choice in the wagering. And Mike, let's just say the wagering was odd.
Yeah, I mean, it was very odd. I mean, I don't know what you could attribute that to. Maybe just because there was such a, surprise winner at the Belmont that, people just thought anybody had a chance in this race. I'm not sure what to say about it. It was very strange to see the money some of these horses took. Ultimately, I guess early voting didn't take, that much money. Then I thought 5-1 was a pretty square price on him.
Well, with Happy Jack and Fenwick taking all the money, early voting, his odds, Secret Oath, her odds, they went up. Fenwick surprisingly 13-1, 50-1 on the morning line. Happy Jack 11-1 off a dismal Kentucky Derby effort. They ran to their form and not to perhaps the expectations of the overall betting public. Let's talk Creative Minister, Mike. It was the first test for him. I think all in all, it was a very promising performance. He did have a nice trip saving ground in behind the leaders, was no match for the top 2, but did fend off a flattening out Secret Oath late. If this horse runs in the Belmont, I think you have to give him a chance.
Yeah, I could certainly see him improving again, which he's obviously going to have to do. He ran fine in here. The trip I thought was a really good one, Dan. Saved a lot of ground, kept right up close to the pace, and this pace wasn't super fast. And he was basically ahead of Epicenter all the way into the upper stretch. He was no match for Epicenter. He was no match for early voting. But I thought all in all a pretty solid performance for this horse. Who again, he's like early voting, very lightly raced.
The fifth place finisher, Skippy Longstocking, just seems like a little bit of an overachiever. He runs hard every single time. He ran very well here. No disgrace to be behind the top four. I think this is the best he can do, but if he goes to the Belmont, the field, I think he fits with those horses.
Yeah, he probably does. He was another one. He was never a real threat in this race. His trip wasn't a bad one. He was a little wide on the first turn. After that, maybe sort of in and among horses, but he got to save some ground around the second turn, Dan. He had to angle out in the stretch while Epicenter got to run up the inside. It didn't make, that much of a difference. But Skippy Longstocking lost some ground at that point, and he was really no threat, but he was pretty game to get fifth.
Simplification string of consistently good efforts came to an end, but there was an excuse. Antonio Sano reported after the race that Simplification bled. He will be given plenty of time off, and hopefully we'll see him for a fall campaign.
Yeah, hopefully we do. When you watch the race back too, it almost looked like you could tell something happened there, Dan, because he seemed like he was moving pretty well. He was in a really good position as they came around that final turn there. But then you could just all of a sudden he was working hard and not keeping up. And it just felt like maybe something did go wrong with him. Reportedly, he bled, and that's a pretty big excuse for this horse. He looked like he was going to run again, and that's what he's done in every one of his starts so far.
Let's take a look at the prices for the 2022 Preakness early voting. 1340 to win for Chad Brown and Jose Ortiz. Epicenter finished second. I know Asmussen was disappointed that he was so far back in the early part of this race. Creative Minister, stepping way up in class, finished third. 582 in the 2022 Preakness. Stick with us on DRFTV. We'll have all of the Belmont Stakes coverage here, and it will be presented by Spendthrift.